Hi, and welcome to this special edition of the ILEETA Learning Lab. My name is Joe Willis. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for ILEETA, and we're doing this special series of learning labs specifically focused on the 2026 conference and Expo. And I'm talking to instructors who are going to be there, going to be teaching classes at the conference, but also who are members of the association, just like the rest of us, and have a lot to talk about. Everyone has a story to tell. And today I'm here to talk to Brent Sorg. His class at ILEETA is going to be From the Sidelines to the Frontlines. And today we're going to talk about the concept of coaching and the transferability to training and specifically law enforcement training. So without any further ado, Brent, over to you and kind of talk to us about what you're going to talk about at the conference, but the bigger picture. What is coaching? Why does it matter? And how does it transfer to law enforcement training?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to the conference. This will be my first year attending as a presenter and even as a participant. So really looking forward to it. I built my presentation around the concept of what I've learned in leadership over the course of 25 years in law enforcement and close to 40 years in coaching. And there's just been some tremendous mentors along the way, but we just continue to learn, and leadership is exactly that, being a lifelong learner. So, just looking forward to it.
So talk to me a little bit about your background. I mean, that is quite a span of two very unique fields, right? Career fields. And so you found a meshing and a calling to kind of mix the two. So kind of talk to me a little bit about both. Where did you come from in the coaching space? What have you done there? And then what have you been doing in law enforcement?
Yeah, so I currently coach youth soccer, our Olympic development team here in Michigan. And I've been a part of college programs in the past. And I also coach our semi-pro team here in Lansing called Lansing Common. So those are college players that play over the summer. I had a 25-year career with Lansing Police Department where I retired as a lieutenant this past February. Retirement is a great thing. So I encourage everyone to get there. But really, there's a lot of things that intertwine in terms of leadership and where we go and how we get to the end goal, whether it be in law enforcement or whether it be in coaching. And while coaching may not be life and death situations, we certainly know that in law enforcement it is. But I would even go to a step further there, while we have to constantly be aware of life and death situations in law enforcement, I think there's the number of decisions where leaders make along the way are far less than what we may think about a life and death situation. So, when I think about too, kind of that, like when we think about the ideal team player, we think about the humble, hungry, and smart, right? Well, in this presentation, I hope that the folks who show up and attend will walk away going, this is what ideal leadership looks like. And they can take maybe a little nugget or two out of the presentation, some things that can maybe help them in their careers or whatever that they're going to go do.
I like how you're using coach and leader almost synonymously, and coaching kind of having a tie to the training and the mentoring and the developmental side of leadership, where often the leadership side of leadership is often about making mission management, that sort of stuff. And I'm curious about that overlap. I love how you keep doing that, like, leading coaching. How important is it for leaders in an agency to develop a coaching mindset and start seeing themselves as coaches?
I think it's critical. I really do. I think we can't just sit back and things have changed, right? We've evolved as humans. We've evolved as law enforcement professionals, we've evolved as coaches. And I think that it's really important, especially in law enforcement, that not only our trainers, but our law enforcement professionals really take that approach that, yeah, leadership is an important component, and we can't just be, a manager that says, hey, this is the decision and it's final, without maybe input from others, or right, gathering all the facts and taking that time to push the pause and really coming to a reasonable decision. So, and I'll just elaborate a little bit, if you'll allow me. Like, when I think about really kind of three qualities or three things that leaders are going to be touched with, and really, number one, it's you want a leader who's been tested, right? That when the water's coming over the bow of the ship, people look to this person to lead. They want to be led by that person. Okay. Second would be kind of that unwavering integrity. They mean what they say, and they say what they mean. And that really is an important component. And it's, in my belief, and what I've learned over the years, is that's not something that you can turn on and off. You either have it or you don't. And then the third piece is communication, and being able to communicate the mission, being able to communicate what your vision or your goals are. And if you can establish and clearly identify those things, whether it be in a training platform in law enforcement, it could be training within from coaching, whatever it might be, if we can clearly identify what our mission is and communicate it, there's a higher percentage of success. So, and I think leaders too will also take time to, they recognize we're not all, no one is perfect. No one steps up and is the absolute greatest, right, in terms of leadership. So what we do is great leaders they have strengths and they have weaknesses, but they're going to surround themselves with folks and they trusted people around them that they're going to say, yeah, you know what? You're going to complement my weaknesses and you're going to help strengthen my strengths. And I really think that that's an important concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And so let me make sure I got those correctly. So we're looking at the development of leaders and putting leaders in places that are going to encourage them to grow and to for the organization to get the most out of them as a leader. They should have been tested to some extent in the space they're going to lead in. They have to have unwavering integrity. And lastly, they must be able to communicate the mission effectively. Did I capture those correctly?
Yes, that's accurate. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So those things are often, when we look at the development of leaders, let me ask you, can leadership be trained?
Absolutely.
Talk to me about how that works and what it looks like from your perspective.
Yeah, I think so. Teaching leaders, molding. I know right now we're doing something with the club that I'm with, and it's a leadership course that we're teaching young kids, and it's built around, and we're talking like high school age kids, but it's built around the foundation of taking accountability for your actions, holding yourself accountable, holding others accountable. How do you lead by example? How do you build trust within your team or within your culture? So extrapolating that from that model to a law enforcement, I think we should start day one, really, when folks get sworn in, or shortly that, or let them get their feet wet. But I do believe that law enforcement, we can take time and either through scenario-based training, we can bring in leaders from other professions, or even your top leaders that you respect within your agency or surrounding agencies to come in and develop that leadership. And what does that look like? It's just, again, it's presenting those things. It's getting them to engage. It's, I wouldn't just do a lecture platform. I would want I would want those folks to engage in that, right? Like I know with the soccer one that we do, it is we give them scenarios. So then they have to present back to the class. Okay, you have a teammate who's not living up to his standards. Okay, what does that look like? All right, how do we address that? And we can correlate that right back to law enforcement. We have an underperforming employee. How do we address that? How do we deal with that? Okay, well, we have to get them to identify that and agree that it is a problem, right? And then we set them down. Okay, so let's set some goals. How can we make you perform at your best? How can we get the most out of you? And then, right, and then you circle back with, okay, let's have a follow up in another, month or 6 weeks or whatever it might be to do a reevaluation. So absolutely, leadership can be taught. I'm a firm believer in that, and it's just planting little seeds and challenging folks along the way.
I love it how you said that, and that speaks to the coaching paradigm that you have here, right? There is some debate out there about whether or not leadership can be taught. But as you've just described it, is something I firmly agree with. Research supports, there's plenty of good evidence to this, that a lecture, as you put it, is not an appropriate leadership training technique. Can it introduce knowledge and kind of give people vocabulary? Sure, absolutely. But you tied a couple of things in there really well, which was engagement, right? And giving them scenarios. And that speaks to the coaching side of it. So I'm going to circle back to something along those lines. And then you also said that they have to see that it's a problem, right? That collectively we all have to agree that this is underperforming or where you were in that. And I think one of the things about real leader development, and I'm curious of your thoughts on this, is that shared vision, right? To be able to fully understand as an organization that this is what we value, this is what we believe, and we all have the same shared perspective to some extent on that. And so let's, kind of circle back to the difference between training for leadership, which is one methodology. And when you get out there and train on the field, it's still training, whether you have a coach there or not, it's still training. And coaching for leadership. Kind of some thoughts on that, and how could you best set up to be the better coach from a lieutenant's perspective or on the sidelines of a soccer field?
Yeah, I think again, we're always trying to help the next generation, help the next leaders that are coming behind us. And the reality is, not everyone is cut out to be a leader, and that's okay, because not everyone can lead, because then who would follow? But I'll say that early on, I think in law enforcement, there should be, again, we should be teaching maybe at year 5 of your career. We're taking a poll of those saying, hey, how many of you have aspirations to get promoted or to seek leadership roles? Okay, now we're going to put them in a similar to the course that we're doing within our soccer program. You do that same thing within your agency. You just bring them in. It could be scenarios. It could be, again, you're probably going to do a presentation at the onset, but you're going to have leaders who are trusted. They come in, they talk about maybe some things that they've learned along the way, right? They're giving back, saying, yeah, this worked really well, or this didn't work well. And, from a coaching perspective, when I look at, my career as a coach, and again, kind of the mentors that I had along the way, things have evolved. And if you're not willing to evolve yourself, then I think you're going to get behind the curve, and you're not going to be up to speed and be able to lead that next generation. So, and people have to be able to trust you, right? Like they have to look to you. They have to, they have to respect you. They don't always have to agree with you, but they have to trust you. And I think that's a really key concept as well.
Let's talk about that for a second, because in your course description, you said leaders must model values, and you mentioned trust a few times, and they don't always have to like your decisions, but generally speaking, respect is built on trust, and trust is built on role model behaviors and consistent behavior. So kind of build on that for me. How important is it as a leader to know your values and to live them?
Yeah, great question. To me, it's the foundation. It's of who your character, what your character speaks to, who you are as a person, and again, kind of that, like I touched on, that unwavering integrity, right? That piece is very similar, right? Your values and your core beliefs. If there's any sense of where the folks that you're leading, if they're like, he's not true to himself, or he waffles, you've lost respect. And I think, like anything, like that can quickly evolve and spread like a cancer among a team or an organization. And it's really hard to earn that trust back as a leader. So I think it's an important concept.
Yeah. And so from I'm going to ask you more on the lieutenant side of the perspective. Obviously, there'll be some coaching bleed through, I'm sure. Aside from that unwavering integrity, there's countless other values that one may espouse. What would you say to leaders in the training space about ways to live and walk those values? What are some pieces of advice you would give in that space?
I think an important one is, don't be afraid to make a decision, and don't be afraid to make the decision that may be unpopular. You have to be willing to. That's what folks are looking for you to do, especially in a law enforcement perspective. You have to make a decision, and if they come to you and you're like, well, I'm going to check with so-and-so, or I'm going to check with my boss. Again, you're not showing leadership. All you're doing is maybe kicking the can down the road. And not to say that you don't want to collaborate or, run things by others. But if you do that on every single time a officer is calling you, or, another supervisor is calling you, then again, I think you're going to lose your credibility to lead, because they're going to say, well, every time I call, he's not willing to make a decision. So make a decision. Don't, again, not making rash decisions, but be willing to make decisions. Own up to your mistakes. If you make a mistake, be the first one to stand before the group and take ownership. Be willing to lead by example. Get out there, be involved. I think it's an important concept. So I know I'll just share this quick little tidbit. Right prior to retirement of last year, I worked the lighting of our Christmas tree at the state capitol. Well, there was a big fight, and after the event, unfortunately, and several kids were arrested. And while I was supervising the jail at the time, well, all of our jail staff were in our jail. Well, me and another sergeant, we drove the van to transport all the kids back. And then again, I stepped in and helped with all the booking process. And I think that's just a small example of leading by example, right? I could have easily just said, hey, Sergeant, go get all those kids and transport them down here, and we'll get them booked in. But no, I got out on the road with him, and we took care of business. So again, I think that those are important pieces as well.
I love that. And I think there's a lot. Let's just briefly pause on what you just said there. There's something else I want to circle back to, but let's talk about that leading by example and that analogy you just gave, that it doesn't have to be these big, sweeping, massive example sort of things. More often than not, it's simply walking the walk. It's simply, this is what I believe, and I'm going to demonstrate what that looks like. You talk about modeling the way here. That is often knowing what your values are, knowing what your beliefs are, and walking them. And so that example you just gave of going out with the van, how do I encourage subordinate leaders? If I'm a sergeant with corporals under me or a lieutenant with sergeants under me, let's talk about ways that we can ensure that they're living the example.
Yeah, I think as a lieutenant with my sergeants, I would meet with them, and one of the things that I did was set expectations. Now, again, kind of that's that vision piece, right? Where you're communicating your vision. Hey, I expect us as supervisors to be involved and be engaged. Certainly, you need to be available if something, a crisis or something comes around. We have to be available for that, but and ready to lead in those moments. However, there's nothing to say that you can't go around and check jail cells, or you relieve one of the jail staff while they go take a lunch break, and you're helping folks that come to the counter. Those are, again, like you said, those are small little pieces of leading by example, of just being a part of the team. You're not bigger than anyone else just because you have rank. You have to be willing to get in and get your hands dirty, so to speak.
I love it, and could not agree more. I think that oftentimes what happens is we promote and get further and further away, and sometimes those simple things, like you just said, cell checks, or hey, I'll take this one, or doing a traffic stop, whatever it is, demonstrating what proactive policing looks like. We're talking a lot right now about limitations on proactivity, right? And there's so much conversation happening across the profession on that. I think sometimes leaders getting out there and demonstrating what proactivity looks like. Another one that we often see, and this may be a generational thing. Actually, let's talk about coaching across generations right now, because obviously you've got some experience there, and we only have a few more minutes, but I think this may be a great way to kind of wrap up this interview. One of the things that I'm hearing on a generational challenge is interpersonal communication skills. A lot of the incoming classes into the academy are struggling with interpersonal communication that isn't digitally based or casual, right? To confront things and to be confrontational, appropriately confrontational. So
Sure.
let's kind of talk to me about how, as a coach, as a leader, we may be able to help and influence that. Obviously, we've got setting the example as a way, but what are some other ways we might be able to coach and teach that?
Yeah, I think there are times where we have to help guide them. We have to help them in whatever it might. And what I mean by that is, let me elaborate, is we can't be surprised sometimes with what comes out of folks' mouths if we haven't trained them, or if we haven't told them maybe an appropriate response. So, there are countless times where we see cops on TV who, right, tarnish the badge because of how they deal with something. And that goes back to that. All right, can we train folks to be a little bit more empathetic? Can we, right? When rubber hits the road, yeah, there are times where we have to use force. I'm not suggesting that we're trying to de-escalate everything, but we may have to actually teach this generation how to communicate, how to listen, how to be a good active listener. And I go back to one of my trainers in the academy, something that a badge isn't going to enhance your personality if you're already a jerk. And right, like, I think that is spot on. It's like the point there. I mean, it goes without saying, but just because you have that on doesn't give you the authority to treat people like crap. Be respectful, treat them as if it were your family. And we have to teach it. Again, everyone wants to make this a generational thing, and I don't disagree. I think, and I see it it comes true even in the soccer profession, in coaching, is that it's all about me. It's me, instead of maybe the bigger picture in the team. So you're always you're challenged with how do you deal with that? How do you communicate back to players to say, all right, hey, I hear what you're saying, but I need you to look at it from this perspective, or look through this lens. And I think the same is true with our younger law enforcement officers.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Brent, I think there's so much more you and I could talk about. I'm looking forward to seeing you at the conference and checking out this presentation. And I'm glad we were able to get a second one in, because you've got a lot to offer here. And I think there's some phenomenal conversation to be had in this space. And so giving you the kind of wrap up here, if still, trying to figure out what am I going to get out of this class, kind of put a bow on it for me. And when I come to your class, from the sidelines to the front lines, what am I going to leave with?
I think really keys to success are really attitude and preparation. And attitude and preparation. And what I mean is, obviously your attitude is you can control that. Your preparation is your training. You're just being prepared for the task, whether it be, it could be you in a coaching environment, it could be you in a leadership environment, whatever it might be, you being prepared for the task at hand. So I think that those who attend are going to walk away kind of with that understanding of like, all right, it's attitude and preparation. And then hopefully they take a nugget or two away about being that, what does ideal leadership look like?
I love it. Thank you very much. Just another quick expression of gratitude. Please tell everyone at Command Presence how thankful we are for their contribution to ILEETA. We're glad you're here with us with the team this year. First of all, on behalf of an old friend of Command Presence, welcome to their team, right? Like, definitely, I'm sure if they brought you on, you have a lot to offer. We have a great deal of respect for them and everything they do to make this conference great. I'm sure we'll see you on Tuesday night at the Cornhole tournament.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I'll be there.
All right. Well, thank you, Brent, very much. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in and staying with us. Looking forward to the ILEETA conference. Looking forward to seeing all of you there, March 16th through the 21st at the Union Station Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks.